The government want you in debt so that they can keep you under control. There's a reason behind why the cost of living keeps going up. There's a reason behind why taxes keep going up. And it's to keep you enslaved to this system so that you don't realize that you have the power to create life in a godlike manner for yourself. You see, the deception in this system, the whole system is a lie in order to keep you subjugated. We live in a debt-based system, which means that essentially you owe somebody something. Our money is issued as debt so that you're constantly trying to give back something that you can't create yourself.
Now, the quote-unquote debt trap is almost inevitable, at least over here in the West, once you pass the age of 18 years old. Because whether you try to ignore the banks, whether you try to ignore the credit card loans, whether you try to ignore debt altogether, it will hunt you down like it has, almost like to a predatory extent, where they will send you credit cards in the mail, they will send you emails constantly, and they will find a way to get you to a point where, you almost feel kind of silly not going into debt. And then you'll ask the peers around you, and they'll be like, Josh, you really got to try to figure out your credit score. Don't you really want to ever buy a house one day? Don't you ever one day want to, be able to loan out a bunch of money from the bank so you can owe them a bunch of money and then pay a bunch of interest back? Who doesn't want to do that type of shit? That's the American fucking way. So, it's kind of almost impossible to escape the whole debt situation, these predatory almost circumstances. And in this video, we're going to discuss different ways that debt can creep up upon your life, and especially how Gen Z is starting to face this, and millennials haven't faced this for quite some time, and they're starting to get extremely fed up over the whole situation. So, despite which generation you're from, or how old you are, or which tax bracket you're in, if you personally can relate to anything discussed in today's video, or if you have any other thoughts, opinions regarding such topics, feel free to leave those down below in the comments. I always love to read through those and respond to them as I see fit, as well as a huge shout out to handful of you guys checking out those links down below in the description. Those are always some best ways to support me and the content around here. Now, let's begin this shit show, shall we?
Nah, my biggest problem is messing up my credit right after I turned 18. Bro, let me tell you a story, because there's no way you messed up your credit worse than mine. So, 19 years old, I go off to college by myself, University of Nevada, Reno, and I have never had money in my life. I've been poor in black in America from the time that I was born till 19 years old. So here I am with a credit card and all this student loan money and no clue how money works. Bro, I'm going to the bar with no dollars in my bank account, just buying everybody drinks. Shots, man, anybody wants a shot, I gotcha. I have asthma, so all the smoking I was doing had my ass in hospitals, but I would be like, oh, I don't have medical insurance, I'm a college student, I ain't paying, walked out. By the time I was 25, I had so many dings, so many overdrafts, so many withdrawals that I had stopped using a credit card for legitimately like 5 years. So now, not only am I swamped in debt and prior dings, I'm not even generating a credit history at all. My credit is so bad, bruh, they won't even let me open a bank account at Bank of America, and that shit is trash. And then, about 3 to 4 years ago, I decided to take my credit seriously. I called all my debt collectors and offered them a very small amount of money in negotiations for taking away my debt. You guys want to know a secret about hospital bills? They're the easiest ones to negotiate. Most of their debtors who buy the hospital debt just want a little bit of money to get rid of the bill off their name. And now I've dug myself to a 720 credit score. Is it perfect? No, you want to be over here in the 780 to 800 range. But my credit score is good enough to get a good rate on a house. Car companies have no problem giving me a good loan, and most banks will take my money. Amex is willing to let me get a card, and now I can build credit like a normal person.
There's multiple different ways that society will try to trap you into this predatory debt cycle. Now, when you first become an adult and you're starting to, get out of schooling and you're starting to enter the workforce, they'll try to prolong your schooling because who wants to have a job? Who wants to work? So instead, you can go back to school, but you're going to have to rack up a bunch of debt. And it's going to be probably like an uncalled for amount of debt with interest rates and loans that are extremely uncalled for, but no one cares about that. You're young enough to not even really understand what any of that shit means. So you're going to jump into these colleges, and why would you want to go to a community college? That's what poor people do. You want to go to university, and why would you want to go to university in your state? Let's go to university a couple states over, across the country damn near, because you know what? I've seen that their sports teams on TikTok or whatever. That's why people do that, I guess. Because my best friend, because my girlfriend moved there. So let's move there so I can break up with her after she gets banged by the football team. Either way, so it's crazy analysis. And so you end up doing all this stuff to end up having this degree that doesn't really end up benefiting you, but the loans never seem to ever go away. And a lot of people end up finding themselves in this situation. Gen Z is now finding themselves in this situation. And millennials have been, paying off these loans, realizing like, damn, I'm paying a lot of stuff, but it's mostly just been the interest. Like, what the fuck am I paying? Like, this is, and but not even, now I have job. Now a lot of them have a job where they don't even use that said degree, and a lot of companies now don't even really necessarily care too much about the whole college thing anyway. And it almost seems like it was just a phony scam to begin with. So if you personally do use your college degree, please feel free to let me know down below in the comments which part of the education sector you got your degree in, which field you work in, as well as if it actually seems like it pays you enough, if the cost was worth the benefit, you know what I mean? Because for a lot of people, it feels as if these days it's not really the case.
I think I fully regret buying a house now. Like, it's not the worst choice I ever made, but it's so expensive. But at the same time, it's exactly what rent would be costing me anyways. I'm almost an hour away from where I want to be and almost an hour away from work. It's a lot of upkeep, a lot of maintenance. I feel like the housing market could crash at any minute, and interest rates were high when I bought it, and so were prices. I rationalized it by telling myself, well, it's the same amount as rent, and I should get something back out of it at the end of the day. Which honestly, at this point, might not even be true. And I'm far away from everything, and I have an hour-long commute, and I'm tired, and I'm in a 3-bedroom house, and I live alone. I'm very thankful that I'm able to do this. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know if it was the right choice, and I'm stressing over it right now. And I've only been here for like 8 months. I don't know what to do.
Home loans. Oh, this is just I can feel the cloud just coming over. You guys hear that? It's like I can hear the storm and the rain. But it's just crazy to think how it's like a lot of these younger generations, they don't plan to ever own a home. Well, boomers, your parents have 3 vacation homes, they're going to sell one and they're going to retire in the other one, and then they're going to never visit the one, but they have a couple maids that go and clean it, so it's fine. No one really has to ever go there anyway. And then we can barely even afford to rent out of an apartment that has mice, cockroaches, and is most likely going to get taken from us by foreign illegals that have nothing to do with our actual society. And it's not necessarily like that's necessarily like a political take. It's just the fact that we're constantly getting more people in the country, and America is built on people coming in from other countries, and that's great. I love that. But we're starting to get to a point where they're using that against us. They're just upping the cost on everything because they're like, well, you got to pay for it. What are you going to do, live on a box on the interstate? We made that shit illegal, which we have other videos on my page where I've talked about that. So feel free to let me know down below in the comments how you feel about anything discussed in today's video, as well as if you actually personally have experienced these predatory home loans, or if you find yourself in a home wishing you were back renting, or if you're renting, dreaming about having a home, but you see all these videos and you're like, maybe that's kind of more of a secret hell that people don't talk about. Because there's this weird thing about, there's this weird like thing or stigma about having a home is so much better than renting. But in some regards, if you don't have the money to keep up with the maintenance of the home, is renting possibly a better option? Feel free to let me know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments, especially some of you older people who have moved around, lived in different places, and might have more experience than some of us young folks do.
Your 2024 resolution has to be to cut your credit cards in half. The average interest on credit cards in this country is 28%. That is sickening. I want to show you how this breaks down so you will stop using your credit cards. Now, if you're someone who uses a card and pays it off, that's different. But if you're going to rack up 10K, I want to show you how this works. So they're typically going to take about 3% for a payment, for a minimum payment. So that would be $300 on 10K. You're like, okay, not too shabby. But 28% interest is $2,800 for the year divided by 12 gives you $230 for that month in interest. So only $70 is going towards the principal, leaving you with $9,930 for the following month to do the same thing again. This will take you a lifetime to pay off. This is crippling so many people, and I want everyone to know how this works. If your kids don't know or you're new to credit cards, you have to understand how ridiculous 28% is. And I think just 15 years ago, it was like 12%. So of course, like anything else, they're just doubling it and drilling us extra. There's $1 trillion of credit card debt in this country, and they're charging 28%. We need to cut them up in 2024 and pay these off. They are literally stealing your money.
Now, here in the West, the majority of Americans are, well, I'm just going to talk about Americans. That's where I'm from. That's my experience. That's really all I know. Is built up on credit. It's built up on debt. It's built up on this facade of money that's really someone else's money that we're paying back way more than we actually got to enjoy. And it's probably blown before we even think about it. Americans are not very good with math. We don't really think about that. That's why the majority of the population is pretty low IQ, because who needs to really think, you know? That's not really a mandatory thing here in the U.S. But it's kind of a funny concept when you really break it down, where it's like these credit card companies try to convince you it's so good. They like have these slogans like, you know, it's almost bad to not have them in your life, when in reality, a lot of these things end up being hurdles that keep you back and stagnant in your process, in your growth, in your adulthood. And then in the longevity, in the long run, you have all these big piles of debt that together, you find yourself just kind of weighing you down. It's like a big boulder that you can't seem to push up that hill. And the hill just seems to be getting steeper and steeper and steeper the older you get, with all these different things coming into play, whether that's health or, you know, family issues or just straight up whatever happens when you age. So feel free to let me know down below in the comments if you've experienced bad credit card debt. I've touched on in other videos kind of the predatory way that these credit card companies kind of pitched their products, as well as what really is the product. What are they selling? That's kind of a funny question. I'm going to wrap up this video discussing how it's pretty much inevitable to get out of debt, or to get rid of debt, or to stay away from debt in any sort of regard or category or sector. And if you feel like I have missed any certain topics of debt that are very important, that are a big part of adulthood, and that are affecting you greatly, feel free to leave those down below in the comments, and maybe I'll touch on those in a video in the near future. As well as a huge shout out to him for you guys checking out these videos daily, and checking out those links down below in the description. Those are always some of the best ways to support me and the content right here. I hope you guys have been doing that, and it genuinely goes such a long way. So, God bless. Hope to see you in the next one. It's kind of for me in this one, so